The reason I enjoyed being an engineer and I loved coding and I loved building products, I felt that what I'm doing, nobody else can do because it's my thinking, my way of solving a problem. And I compared it to somebody creating a picture. So I also looked at technology as an art. If you don't keep an eye on for innovation, it can disrupt you. And you should be looking at innovation as how can I bring in and disrupt my own business? Because that's the competitive advantage. I just want to learn because I want to see how things are evolving. Because you never know how that thing that is evolving is going to intersect with what you're doing today.
Hello, Sanjay sir. Welcome to Atomic Conversations.
Thank you, Sai.
Thank you for making it this far, and thank you for blessing us with sort of your expertise. I wanted to start with like a couple of like very sort of personal questions. One is, as we were coming in the car, you were talking about your career journey, and I wanted to know how you sort of like started your technology like interest. How did it get here?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for hosting me, and I appreciate it. And thanks to the team as well. So my career, I'm going to date myself, started decades ago. And very early on, I knew that I wanted to get into some level of engineering aspect. And fast forward, I graduated into computer engineering, did an advanced software engineering. And then I started my career as a software engineer. From there, I went up to becoming a lead engineer. I'm a technology geek at heart. So technology was a pivotal aspect of it. Once I went to the lead, I realized that the technology paradigm is constant, but what is shifting is enterprises' business models. A pivotal moment for me was when I realized that I can learn technology, but equally important because technology is enabling business was for me to understand how different business industries are. And so my journey took me to from building products for a telecom company to working for a retail company, Gap, which is in the US. And from there, I went into financials, Visa. I pivoted from lead engineer to enterprise architecture. Enterprise architecture gave me that end to end, all the way from the inception to the end of how a company runs. I learned how fintech works in Visa, went to Salesforce where I learned how high tech is, which is very different from what you do in retail. Went to Okta, which is all about security and identity. And my pivotal movements have been changing the shift from technology to now understanding the business. Because I believe that the more you understand the business, you are in a better position as a technologist to enable the business. So that's in a nutshell what my journey has been.
Yeah, I think I sort of understood this when I was like trying to like figure out what questions to ask you, and like I was like trying to figure out like what could be the best like thing for our audience. And you said that it took, your journey has taken you from like all of these places to how technology actually works, but it's also taken you across the world.
Yes.
And like I think, especially for somebody, I think you were the first generation of like globe-trotting technology executive from India. So tell us about, what that was like in the early days, what that was to actually like go across and work in all these places when technology was just breaking through.
Absolutely. See, very early on when I graduated, there was no notion of a cloud or no notion of this offshore. If you had to do something, you had to actually fly and be in that location. And I also, as I was growing up, I said, wouldn't it be good? Travel has always been something that I wanted to do. Wouldn't it be good if I travel and I work in the places? And really, when you go on a holiday, you don't get the grasp of the country and the culture and the cuisine. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to stay there for a longer duration. So very early on, I joined Mahindra Tech, and after Mahindra Tech took me to London, Singapore, Malaysia. I joined a company, a Canadian company called Bell Canada. That took me to Thailand. Thailand, I was building products for the telecom. Though I was based in Thailand, wherever we sold the product, I was able to go there and stay there for a longer duration, including some countries in Europe, Germany and Holland. It gave me an opportunity. The experience has been, I grew up in India, and the perspective is this is where it starts and this is where it ends. When you go to all these countries and you see all these cultures, the possibilities are endless. And I feel that the journey has made me, as a person and a professional, a very well rounded individual.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Like something I was thinking about, in all through your experience, like, especially as you've gone from engineering to architecture, right? Architecture is like, it's very different from like a general engineering sort of like viewpoint. You have to take what the business is telling you and then convert it into technology, right? Like, how does that shift work in your head when you go from an engineer to an exec?
Yeah, it's a very, actually, architecture has also shifted circa 1990, before the cloud, when everybody ran their data centers. Architecture's focus was, how do you standardize on certain stack? The whole CIO's concept at that time was, how do we optimize on processes and save cost? Fast forward, that is no longer the case. Enterprise architecture has become more of an arm within a company to enable the business. Not only enable the business today, but to look at where business will be in the future and enable them. So, having worked in industries has given me that well rounded expertise end to end. See, technology, if you implement for the sake of technology, it's not going to
Yeah.
serve you any good. You really need to understand what business is. So, understanding their language. What are they trying to do? How is marketing going to evolve? How will sales evolve? Understanding that enables you to provide a holistic architecture and a solution that meets the business today, but can easily be morphed in the future.
Nice. Actually, like you led me down. You led me down a certain like thing in my memory. Um, a friend of mine, like he also started as an engineer and is now an architect. He's the CTO of his own startup in Singapore. And a long time ago, when we were together, in our like young days, I'm a literature guy, so I was talking to him about literature, and I was telling him that it's an art in a certain way, and like how marketing is also an art, and that's how I do it, and all of that. And he said that, listen, coding and architecture are also arts, right? The way that we like build the product to like go, and he explained it to me. He explained it to me in Tamil, and I was able to sort of get it. But I would love to have your take on it because you sort of like alluded to it.
I think you just took the words out of my mouth. The reason I enjoyed being an engineer and I loved coding and I loved building product, I felt that what I'm doing, nobody else can do. Because it's my thinking, my way of solving a problem. And I compared it to somebody creating a picture,
Absolutely.
right? So I have also looked at technology as an art. And so I totally resonate. And whoever your friend is, compliment them because it's plus one from
Yes,
me.
absolutely. I certainly will. No, that makes complete sense. In throughout this journey, Sanjay, like the thing is, now coming from somebody who's like gone across the world building these systems, deploying them, and now as a leader, I'm sure you've built teams at every level, right? How There are two questions here. Like one, how do you think about it, and how has that thinking changed?
About building teams.
Yes. High performance technical teams. Let's say that
Yeah,
word. Yeah.
yeah. See, the philosophy, one of the things that you asked me about my journey, I moved from an IC to a people manager. I made that transition very aware that when I'm an IC, I can control what I'm building. But when you become a people manager, you are you're actually creating an opportunity for an individual. You are empowering an individual to do their best work in their life. So it's an indirect thing. My outcome should be the same, but I'm doing it indirectly. So as a leader, this is the philosophy I've used always. I will empower the team and I will give them complete autonomy to go and do what they are chartered to do. Now, if they come to me for help, I will listen, but I will not solve the problem for them. I've always believed in diversity. I've always believed in feedback, not like many companies have feedback twice a year or once a year. Feedback is immediate. And you should, as a leader, I'm open to feedback as well.
Yeah.
Everybody has blind spots. So I created a team of high performing architects and technical folks that can approach me, can challenge me, and vice versa. They felt empowered. The most important thing as a leader is to build next gen leaders. I really believe that there is no I in a team. The moment I see somebody in the team is thinking I, that's going to dilute the team.
Understood.
So that you have to kind of live and breathe, and you just don't say what you don't mean, and what you say you do it.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question to this because, like, you touched upon that. Like, this is also something that I'm struggling with. Like, um, so all of us are not immediate and only people managers, right? There's obviously like our own KPIs that we have to deliver on, and like our own like aims that we have to get to. Like, for example, in my team, I'm also responsible for corp marketing. I'm responsible for AR, analyst relations. I'm responsible for PR. All of this rolls up to me, and I do it myself. So this is in addition to, for example, the team that I have, right? One of the things, like, how do you sort of balance that? Because for somebody of your experience, you will see something and you say, hey, this can be done 10% better by you, right? But do you jump in and say that exactly I'm getting very specific here, but you jump in and say that exactly at the time that, hey, why don't I do this? Or how do you like get that
How do
person
I
to
get
push
it?
that last 10%?
I'll tell you. You see, the era that we are living in, time is of essence, right? I do not say it the way that you asked, but I will ask questions which will enable the person to, in their mind, think. And it's not a direct question. It's a question that will take them in that direction, but it will make it clear to them that there may be a different way of doing it. So there is a black and white of saying, hey, why don't you just do it this way?
Yeah.
But there is another way to say, but with this approach, this could go wrong or this could be there. Scale cannot happen. This could happen. Did you think how you would address that? So in an indirect way, you see, when I say you are bringing up the next gen leaders, you are actually giving them an opportunity to solve a problem on their own. And you're giving them these guidelines, but you're not giving them the answers.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer. I mean, I'm certainly gonna like try to use this because it's something that I struggle with. Not like the word is not struggle, but something that I keep thinking about when I'm working. So like coming back to your sort of experience, one thing that I wanted to ask is in terms of like especially in as the top echelon of people making decisions for like thousands of people, right? How do you figure out the balance between innovation and stability? Because you're deploying, you're thinking of buying, phasing out, and deploying technology for people to use in their everyday lives, right? But how do you like make that thing between, like, for example, there's this thing that they used to say, Microsoft Word can make one change and it will impact like millions of users, so they can't immediately make any change, right? So like there is stability, but you also have to innovate. How do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I always look at stability and innovation as being complementary. And the way that I always looked at it is if you have a strong foundation of your SDLC, things like DevSecOps, I feel that a modular architecture, if you follow the principles, allow you to do what is needed for the business today, but also on the side innovate. And if you see something that you innovate and you can create like an MVP or a pilot and you can prove it out, you can actually plug it in and make it available. If you fail, it's okay to fail. You can pull it out. You're doing this in a very rapid pace. You're doing it in an agile manner. So having that foundation of DevSecOps, automation, and a modular design allows you to pull out things, innovate it, because if you don't innovate, guess what? That innovation is what may disrupt you in the future. That innovate may be the competitive advantage that you were looking for. And you don't want to be left behind. See, innovation can, if you don't keep an eye on for innovation, it can disrupt you, number one.
Yeah.
And you should be looking at innovation as how can I bring in and disrupt my own business? Because that's the competitive advantage. So those are the two lenses I've always used from innovation perspective and always kept it at the forefront.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer. I think I really loved what you said in the last part. But whose responsibility? Just like a small follow up. But whose responsibility do you think it is in general? Like, um, especially when you're deploying technology, you will have all these people coming and saying, "Hey, you've changed this, Sanjay. You know, your team has told me not to do this, what to do, and all of that." But whose responsibility do you think it is? Should it come from the organization itself? Should we instill culture, or like do you just think like top down is best? Like just tell people.
It all is, as a leader, having that relationship with the business leaders creates that foundation that allows a leader to go and say, hey, may have a better way to do it. And here is the proof, and here is the ROI behind it. If you can measure it and show the KPIs, and you can show that this can work, but I need to prove it out. No leader will tell you that you shouldn't innovate. Yes, we need something today. But if I do it something in a different way, it may be tomorrow, but it's going to be a competitive advantage for the company and the organization that you're working and enabling. That's how you do it.
Awesome. I have a very like particular question, like in the sense that with remote and hybrid coming in after the pandemic and so on, how has your like sort of approach to this changed?
See, when there was a time when everybody went to work, everybody was in a premise, there was something called a network perimeter. And as long as you can protect the network perimeter, you're fine because everybody is working inside. With hybrid and remote, that's no longer the case. And what has happened is with hybrid and with remote, the notion of identity, protecting identity and the endpoint has become even more important. So where it was you authenticate, I trust you, but you authenticate, it's gone into a zero trust architecture. Even though I know you, I don't trust you. So you have this notion of zero trust, VPN, IP filtering. You have this notion of MDM on your phone, where you are constantly evaluating the behavior and the anomalies that once you detect, you can shut it off. Because everybody is working from home, different networks, the perimeter has expanded exponentially. So you have to protect the device and you have to protect the identity. The notion of FIDO, creating your fingerprint to create this key that allows you to then authenticate to the assets that you have. That's number one. But also making sure that the person doesn't have access to things that they shouldn't. That's another element to it. It's not about protecting. It's also making sure if you are in finance and you have to move to marketing, anything that you had in finance should be taken off. And that's what we call the identity governance and tailoring access. Having the right access for the right people, for the right reasons, and to the right assets.
Something I wanted to ask you, right? Especially with a career that spans like multiple decades and multiple sort of technology paradigms. Like when I was speaking to you, you know more about AI than like the people that I work with, and we are trying very hard to like build in it, right? How are you like keeping in touch with everything that's going on? Like, is there like and not just now, like I mean from before as well, right? Is just to see if there's something we can learn from that.
See, there is this notion of a curious mindset, and I've always been very curious about things. And I'll just get up, how you want to, any laptop, any mobile, there is a firmware upgrade. I also believe that humans, like we need to upgrade because knowledge is not a destination, it's a journey, right? So I will get up and I'll say, I want to know everything about this particular innovation. And I'll download papers, I'll look at podcasts, and I'll just upgrade myself. I'm just curious. Even though it's not applicable to me, I just want to learn because I want to see how things are evolving. Because you never know how that thing that is evolving is going to intersect with what you're doing today. So I used to have these analyst calls with Gartner, and for no reason I'll say, how is cryptocurrency going to change? Because as a technologist, I want to see today 4% transactions in US are crypto. But what if it fast forward and 80% become that? I mean, it could happen, but possibility. What systems do we need to change? How would we transact instead of currency into crypto? So just giving you an example that I just love reading. I just attend webinars. I go to industry events, seminars. and conferences, and I believe in like you say you have to upgrade yourself. You have to
Yeah.
upgrade yourself periodically.
That's sort of a great like structure to think, framework to have to think about it. Also interesting is like at Atomic Work, one of the things that we were trying to like we do these ICPs for us, right? Personas for marketing for us to see who is actually interested in us and who will be the most best sort of like customer for us or prospect for us. And one thing that constantly keeps coming up is a curious leader, because we are so advanced and we are like playing at the cutting edge of like Gen AI. What like we see all these the people who actually want to adopt us and use us are really curious. They want to know, hey, what have you built? Show us. Okay, this is how this is how my IT team can get better. Wow, show me more. How are you doing it? So we get all these questions, and when we get these questions, we know that this is the perfect sort of like prospect for us, a customer for us, because they understand what we bring to the table and what innovations are there. I think sort of that's what I see the intersection in the Venn diagram there. So that makes complete sense to me. What I also wanted to ask is, especially in technology, a lot of tech folks don't, and when I say tech folks, I mean engineers, right? They don't necessarily want to go into the exec route, right? They're like, hey, I'm very happy coding and I'm very happy like building. But it's not like execs aren't building either. But like for people who actually want to take that route, or who are a little bit wary or reticent in like taking that route, what do you want to say?
Yeah. See, I pivoted from IC to a people manager and a leader because I wanted to make a larger impact. As an IC, you can make an impact, but I said I need that multiplier effect, and I want to make a larger impact because I want to get. That's what keeps me going. What am I doing for the company? How am I making the company successful?
Absolutely.
So when I pivoted it, I realized a key aspect of this is your communication, and communication tailored to who you're speaking with. When you're talking to a CEO, you have 15 minutes to pitch an idea and get into that dialogue versus an engineer who is doing a session on the drawing board. So tailoring that communication is very important. The second thing is you have to, as a leader, you have to put yourself in the shoes. Like if I'm talking to a CFO,
Yeah.
I want to understand what is CFO's interest. So I can be prepared and I'm speaking in the CFO's language. And that's the shift that needs to happen.
Yeah.
That somebody goes from IC to a leader, you're able to communicate at various levels, you're able to resolve conflict because there will be conflict across the organization. You're able to build high performing teams and you're able to essentially mentor teams and members. And those are certain things that doesn't come naturally.
Yeah.
Like an IC, I'm talking to the computer, I'm building a model, you can change, you can do whatever. But when it's time to, empower and influence,
Yeah.
second, third, fourth layer, it's a dynamic. It's no college will teach you, no book you can learn. You have to understand and you have to kind of be in there. And as a leader, I've always led with empathy. There are three rules, even today, I follow. When I'm leaving my company, I always say, whatever you do, you're working for a company. You always make a decision by putting on the company's hat. Now you're making a decision based on the data points that you know at the time. And you're going to always say, this is what makes sense. Sometimes those decisions can be wrong. If they're wrong, raise your hand, say, it was me, it was my mistake. And as a leader, that's an example that I want the teams to also take. And I basically have always worked in that way.
Awesome. That's a great answer. Especially coming from marketer, I wanted to ask you this, because like engineering and marketing, like opposite ends sometimes. But not just engineering and marketing. Think about collaboration in general, Sanjay. Like the thing is, with large as the companies grow, one of the things that we keep saying is companies grow and become complex, and therefore collaboration becomes more and more difficult. But at this stage, with so much innovation, right? How do you think we should sort of think about collaboration at the levels that will take the organization to the next level? As you said, you have to put on the organization's cap, right? How do you take that organization to the next level with collaboration?
I think collaboration, what I've experienced is in the era that we are living with remote and hybrid, collaboration can happen remote and hybrid, it works fine. But then when there are situations where there is a large transformation or a large initiative, bringing the teams together, both from the business side as well as from the product and BT side or IT side, allows them to be in a position where they can be more agile. You can do these design think principles, and you can build products and MVP in a way that meets the business outcome, in a way that the outcome can be also measured. And if the measurement says, no, this is not right, you can quickly morph. So bringing the teams together, situational, collaborating that way when there is a need, when I have a time crunch, I need to bring it in. That's how I've seen it very successful. But otherwise, collaboration, remote and it works, Zoom works fine.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis, you don't want to do that.
Yeah. No, awesome. Thank you so much. Like in general, we ask this question to all the leaders who come on our podcast. What book have you been reading, and what book has had the most impact on your working life?
I think so. I listened to a lot of podcasts, and the one that I was just listening to is a futurist called Peter Hinson, and I was telling you about it.
Yes, you were.
And the one that I just resonated with me, and it's related to innovation, is he has this podcast where he talks about that we are living in an era where innovation is happening so fast that there is a never normal. And when you read it, it basically tells you that the moment you think that you are comfortable and I'm current, next day you're not, because something else has been innovated. And it resonated with me because I'm curious about innovation. Look him up. He's got some good podcast as well.
No, I looked him up as you told me to. Like we'll add the link to the blog post as well as his books, in the podcast. But and anything that over a period of time has been like a huge impact for you, like, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a book. Like it could be like a career or something like that. It has been influence.
I think from a career perspective, I would say having mentors who I looked up to and saw how they themselves perceived and acted had a profound impact on me. And I've learned from them what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. And it's created, as a leader, it's a thing that I would call being very self-aware. Being self-aware where you know where your blind spot may be, so that then you can act on it, is something that has made a profound impact on my career.
Absolutely. Self-awareness, the future being not normal, and adapting as well as leading with empathy. Thank you so much, Sanjay sir.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.